I'm Natalia Bonner. Happy June! Welcome to Let's Stitch a Year of Quilt Blocks. Today I'm going to be showing you how to machine quilt a Millie's favorite quilt block. Now I do have a brand new class that just launched where I'll teach you 12 more ways to machine quilt this awesome quilt block. You can register for that class and gain access to all 12 lessons over on our website, peaceandquilt.com. Let's get stitching. I'll start out this fun block design, like most of my quilting, by using my machine quilting ruler and stitching in the ditch all the way around the outside of the block. Once that's complete, it's time to start on the block. Now you know that I love the look of stitch in the ditch. I love how it really just finishes off designs so nicely. So I'm going to start out the center portion of this block by again stitching in the ditch around all of those half square triangles. As you can see here, I'm going to start stitching in a corner. I'll stitch a diagonal line across my block to the opposite corner. When I get to the opposite corner, then I'll travel around my corner and I'm going to stitch a straight line across that first row. Now once I get to the opposite side, I'm going to travel around my corner again and now travel to the next corner. Now, that next corner, I'm going to travel around the corner again and stitch a straight line on my ditch across my block. When I get across my block, now I'm going to start again moving up my block. So I'll travel up to the next point and I'm going to stitch diagonal in my ditch around my block. I am doing a lot of stitch in the ditch work here and I am using my 4-in-1 machine quilting ruler. You'll see as I'm using that ruler, I'm holding the ruler so that the ruler is 1/4 of an inch away from where I want my thread to intersect. So as close to that ditch as I can keep my stitching. Now once I've stitched basically a point-to-point diamond around the block, then I'll travel through the center back over to the opposite side of my block. Now at this point I am going to travel down my ditch around my corner again, and I've got a few more lines that I need to finish off the stitch in the ditch work. Yes, I am going to travel over my original stitch line more than once with this design. With my machine quilting, I like to use so fine thread. That's what I'm using here, and I'm even using a high contrast, a colored thread here. I'm using it so that it'll really stand out and so that you can see it good here on camera. However, most often I'm using a color that will blend really nicely, and the so fine thread is so nice and fine, but also a fabulous strong thread. So I don't feel like I get a lot of thread buildup, you know, kind of a thready look when I quilt designs like this. So I'll continue on working my way across my block until I've stitched in the ditch around every single one of these half square triangles. Now I have the foundation all complete by stitching in the ditch around all of those. Let's dress this block up just a little bit. So starting in my corner, I am going to stitch point-to-point arrows, working my way across the block again. As you can see, I am not actually measuring or marking anything for these point-to-point arrows. I'm simply holding my ruler, stitching to where I feel like looks pretty good, looks like about the center, and then stitch to the next corner. So once I've stitched my way all the way across my block, now coming back in the white triangles, I'm going to fill those in with a fun swirl. So starting in one corner, I'll simply stitch a swirl into the center of that triangle, and then I'll swirl back out of that swirl to the opposite corner, working my way back to that point where I started. Once I have that row complete, now I'm going to travel down my ditch again and repeat the process again. So starting out in each of my colored triangles, I'll stitch that point-to-point arrow design, and then I'll work back, filling in those white blocks with that point-to-point swirl. This is such a fun way to dress up a block, working between the crisp straight lines and the nice swirls. It keeps it simple but still creates a beautiful look. All right, so let's go back to the ruler. I'm going to again stitch a couple of point-to-point arrows and then work back to where I started using my swirl. Once I get back to where I started, now I'll travel down my ditch again. Now I'm at the bottom corner and I'm going to start out again with my ruler and I'm going to stitch those point-to-point arrows. Anytime that I work using a ruler, which is on the majority of the quilts, I do have an extended base plate on my machine and I also have my ruler foot on my machine. I leave those on there and I work with those when I'm doing ruler work and free motion quilting. A lot of times I get questions because my quilts look really tight here on camera. It's because I have that extended base plate on my machine and also because I am working on a panel. So all of these samples that I'm sharing with you for the Year of Blocks quilts, I am stitching on panels. So these are panels that you can pick up from Honest Fabrics and they are designed as coordinates for this year-long series. You can pick those up over there, or I do have a piecing pattern on our website, pieceandquilt.com, where I show you exactly how to piece all of these blocks. All right, so I've traveled along my ditch and I'm going to work on the next set of point-to-point arrows and swirls. However, notice that this time I chose to continue on. Instead of stopping when I reached the opposite side of my block, I went around that side of the block and completed the remaining point-to-point arrow blocks. So I could have stitched these all more as a continuous line when I started on the first side, but I do like to show you that you can do it in small sections or you can do longer lines and work around your corners like I've done here. Such a fun way to finish off this block design. I love how it turned out. Make sure you share your progress, your quilting in our Piece and Quilt Show and Tell Facebook group. I'd love to see it there. Have a great day, everybody.